head coach Pat Narduzzi took some shots at Coach Prime for how he's gone about utilizing the transfer portal to overhaul Colorado's roster. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, the NCAA has a rule that allows first-year head coaches to remove players off the roster as long as they remain on scholarship. Now, at the ACC spring meeting, Pat Narduzzi told 247 Sports that that's not what the rule intended to be. It was not to overhaul your roster. We'll see how it works out, but that to me looks bad on college football coaches across the country. The reflection is on one guy right now, but when you look at it overall, those kids that have moms and dads and brothers and sisters and goals in life, I don't know how many of those 70 that left really wanted to leave or they were kicked in the butt to get out. He also continued by saying, I grew up in a profession that you can't tell a guy that he has to leave based on athletic ability. I think he'll be shocked that he probably had some pretty good football players in that room. When I got to Pitt back in 2015, I didn't kick anybody off. Zero. Those are your guys. When you become a head coach, you inherit that team and you coach that team. If someone wants to leave, that's great. You don't kick them out. I disagree with the whole process. That's not why I got in the game. Now, Pat Narduzzi, he makes a pretty fair point, okay? I do feel like Deion Sanders kind of could have handled this situation a lot better. I do feel like it is a little bit unfair to some of the Colorado players who were there before he arrived, that he kind of pushed them out. But you got to remember that this is the same team that only won one game last season. And when Deion Sanders arrived and he gave that first team meeting speech, he told those guys that he was coming in this thing to win. He wasn't trying to wait 3 to 4 years to do things the old-fashioned way, like what Pat Narduzzi is talking about. Like Deion Sanders is trying to come into this upcoming college football season and change Colorado football. Colorado has only had one winning season in the last 18 years, and that came in 2016. Deion Sanders is trying to get some immediate results, and most of the players that he had last year were not that good. He probably did have about 3 or 4 good players on his roster that he probably pushed away, but you don't know if he pushed those guys away because he cut them. Maybe those guys just wanted a change of scenery. Maybe they didn't like Colorado. Maybe they didn't think that Deion Sanders was the right coach for them. And for Pat Narduzzi, you know, even though he does make a fair point, he has to understand that college football has changed. This isn't 2015. This is the year 2023. These head coaches, when they get hired by most of these Power 5 programs, they don't have several years to overhaul and rebuild a roster. Most of these coaches have to come in and they have to hit the ground running right away. And when you look at Deion Sanders, I think that he's rebuilding this program in the best way that he sees fit that has success right away. And I don't think that Deion Sanders is only going to win 3 games. I definitely think that he should at least be able to get Colorado to a bowl game. But even if Colorado only wins 3 or 4 games this year, at least he's going to be able to say that he did it with his guys, his way. There's more to one way than being able to build up a program. Pat Narduzzi is somebody who has been very vocal about the transfer portal and NIL. This is somebody who accused Utah of using NIL to flip one of his recruits. He also tried to say that there were schools out there who were trying to use NIL to tamper with getting Drake May to leave UNC. He also accused USC of tampering when Jordan Addison decided to transfer from Pitt to USC to play with Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley. Pat Narduzzi, he does have a fair point, but at the same time, he has to remember that these head coaches don't have a lot of years to just sit back and try to overhaul a roster the old-fashioned way by inheriting a one-win team, trying to develop those players, trying to get 3 or 4 recruiting classes in there, trying to get a couple of players from the transfer portal here and there. Like, no, Deion Sanders came in this thing to win, and he's trying to win right away. Lincoln Riley, when he arrived at USC last year, he hit the transfer portal pretty hard. Now, albeit he probably didn't push guys out in the same way that Deion Sanders did, but you got to make room for better players. And Deion Sanders got to Colorado, and he saw that most of the players that he had on his roster could have been easily replaceable. So he went in the transfer portal, and he got upgrades. The transfer portal is a way to fill holes that you have on your roster. And for Colorado, every position was an area of need. So what did Deion Sanders do? He went in the portal. He got his son. He got Travis Hunter. He got a bunch of other good players as well. And those guys are going to have big impacts on Colorado's season this year. The guys that Deion Sanders has on his team now are way better than the players that Colorado had last year when they only won one game. This was the worst college football team in the sport last season. Why would Deion Sanders want to keep the majority of that roster? He didn't want to inherit a one-win team and have to be stuck with these players. No, he kicked most of those players to the curb, and I'm pretty sure some of those players left on their own free will, but Deion Sanders is all about results. Last year's Colorado team didn't produce any good results, and his football program hasn't produced any meaningful results in damn near 2 decades. Did you see Colorado's spring game? It was sold out. It was the most watched spring game of the whole entire spring. Colorado fans are starving for some success, and Deion Sanders is going to give it to them. You can say, well, JT, it's not right for him to just come in there and force guys out. Yeah, it's not fair, but guess what? Life isn't fair. It isn't fair that some of you guys have to wake up every day and work a 9 to 5, but that's just life. Those players, they weren't good enough in Deion Sanders' eyes, so he came in there, he pushed them out, and he made way for players who he felt were better. In college football, in today's age, you don't have a lot of time to do things the old-fashioned way. And if Pat Narduzzi is going to take shots at anybody, don't take shots at Deion Sanders. Take shots at the guys in the black, white, suit and ties who are responsible for allowing this to happen because they allowed this rule to be set in place. Why are we getting mad at Deion Sanders for finding loopholes in rules that the NCAA allowed? The NCAA is responsible for the majority of problems that we have in college football right now. The whole NIL situation, the transfer portal situation, this is all of the NCAA's fault. Why are we getting mad at coaches for finding loopholes in the rules that the NCAA created? Deion Sanders ain't make the rules. He's just trying to find a way to win. And we already know that Pat Narduzzi is super outspoken. We already know that he's not the only coach who feels this way, but check this out. If you're Pat Narduzzi and you don't like it, you better hope that Deion Sanders doesn't have a good season this year, because if Colorado ends up hitting the ground running, this isn't going to be the first or last head coach who takes this approach. You guys already know that this is a copycat league. So if Deion Sanders ends up having a lot of success year one, guess what the next batch of new head coaches are going to do next year when they get hired? They're going to rinse, wash, and repeat Deion Sanders' formula. They're going to get to their new program. They're going to push a lot of guys out. They're going to hit the transfer portal and bring those new guys in. That's just how it goes. Deion Sanders is trying to win. He's not trying to wait 5 to 6 years and having to inherit a team that only won one game. This man's trying to give the city of Boulder, the Colorado fan base, a reason to be excited. And he's done that. He's rejuvenated this program, and they haven't even played a game yet. And so what if they only win 2 or 3 games? At least Deion Sanders can say, I won 2 or 3 games with my team, and I was able to do this thing my way. It's not a right or wrong approach to building a contender in college football. There are multiple ways to build a championship caliber football program in college football. Every coach has a different philosophy. Pat Narduzzi's philosophy is different from Deion Sanders' philosophy. And that's okay, as long as you're producing and you're getting results.